Very good. We will begin our regularly scheduled city council meeting, so we do appreciate everyone coming out this evening. It is 6 p.m., so that hour is upon us, so we will begin. So it is Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. We did have a workshop prior to our city council meeting to discuss the Community Development Block Grant Draft 2024 Action Plans. We want to thank Dominique again for coming and presenting that. Did a wonderful job. We appreciate all the hard work and effort that she puts into that. So we will begin our meeting this evening with an invocation offered by Pastor Jim Porter, it looks like, from the Caldwell Free Methodist Church. So we appreciate him being here to offer that. So if you please stand for that prayer, and then please remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for another beautiful day in our city. And as we come before you tonight in this formal meeting place, we want to pause for just a moment and acknowledge what happened over the weekend and how shocking it was and how upsetting it was. And Father, we thank you here and now for the result, that it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But you've also given us this moment to practice patience with our neighbor, to measure our speech, and to turn to you in times of chaos and with all of the questions that we have. We thank you for your goodness to us. Father, we thank you for a short agenda tonight that will put us back in our homes at a decent hour. We thank you for those that serve us, who share their opinions and share their wisdom with this community. We ask that you would bless them with extraordinary wisdom this evening, and that business would be conducted efficiently and in good spirits. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate that and appreciate that prayer. I'll remind the council of what he did say in his prayer to get us out of here quick tonight, so don't belabor the point as we move through this. But thank you so much, Jim, and for all that you do for our community. Madam Clerk, if you'd please call the roll.
Yes. Doty?
Here.
Stodick?
Here.
Register?
Here.
Williams?
Here.
Allgood?
Here.
Dittenberg?
Here. Very good. All council members are present and accounted for. So we do have a special presentation before we get to that, are there any conflict of interest declarations from any members of the council regarding any items on the agenda this evening? Okay, so now we get into our special presentations. We do have one this evening. We appreciate the Inferno Soccer Club being here. I had the opportunity to meet with them recently in my office. I've had the opportunity of volunteering for them for many years with my sons going through their soccer programs and being a good enough coach to not get paid and to teach the kids a few things along the way. So I definitely was not worth getting paid for what I did for them, but I appreciate that opportunity and all that they do. So I think it'd be great for them to be able to present to the council and to the public of what they do and how they do it. They are an amazing program and really recognized throughout not just the state, but the entire Northwest on the great soccer players that they produce and the program that they run. So it is an elite program, I would say, for that. So we would turn it over. I know which one of you wants to come forward, but please do so. And if you could just introduce yourself, and then even though he doesn't want to come forward, you can still introduce him and anybody else associated with Inferno Soccer and what your roles are would be great for that.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you guys. Hi, I'm Fred. I've been with the club for over 15 years. I started off as, like he said, a coach, VP of Rec, and now I'm the president of Inferno. The one who didn't want to come up is Rosario. He's a board member, and the one next to me is my daughter, who's been in the program, who actually went off who was off to college playing soccer. Thanks to this program to help, our community as we move forward. So just a few things that we wanted to present is, we have over 1,200 recreational kids in our program, over 558 competitive players. Every year we grow and grow, and we want to thank you guys for the constant help you guys have done, the city parks, city of Caldwell and Crookham for all the things you guys do for us. We just wanted to present for our next year. We've had a lot of things coming up, luckily with Inferno, that will help out the community, and we're hoping that we can get some support from you guys. We have, normally state is done in Boise, this year, 2025, will be done in Caldwell. So all the teams, instead of going to Boise, are going to come here. So the economic impact that we're going to have is going to be huge for Caldwell. We've never had tournaments before. We're going to have two. We're going to have a rec tournament next year and a competitive tournament that we've already sent out flyers to Washington, to Utah, to Wyoming, to Montana. So that means more teams will be coming here. So we're hoping that we can just get some support of whatever you guys can do for us. We're not asking for any money, just supporting the council, as we move along and keep growing. Like I said, we're one of the fastest growing clubs in the state of Idaho. So we just wanted to put ourselves out there to let you know who we are and what we do for the community, and want to thank you guys for everything you guys do for us.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to note so this thing that we have before us, that you have over 1,700 players
Yes.
on there. So 1,200 players in the recreation program and approximately 600 players in the competitive program. So that is a lot of kids running around
Yeah, and
chasing
it-
a soccer ball.
And if you look at our slide, we have over 63% are all from Caldwell that sign up for our club. So,
It is amazing. And soccer is a very fast-growing sport
It
in
is.
America. It's getting more and more popular. Obviously, in other areas, in South America and Europe, it's been the number one sport for years down there, and it's quickly growing quite a following here in America. I know that as my son is, like I said, all my sons went through Inferno. My oldest, that's his favorite sport is soccer. He plays for Ridgeview now, and so we've become a diehard soccer family, watching the Euro Cup and the
Oh, yeah.
Copa America. So it's been fun to kind of watch that grow in
it
that
was-
regard. So
nice.
pretty amazing what you do. We appreciate that. Any questions from the council? Councilor Stoddick?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, first of all, I'm a football guy, but since hate to give my age away, my great-grandkids, I've got two of them in your program right now, and it's just super. But question I have is, looks like a practice soccer field on the southeast corner of, I believe it's South Indiana and Homedale, and it's lit up at night and everything. Is that part of your program, or is that something separate?
I think that's something separate.
Something separate?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, great, thank you.
Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. Do you know the dates of that tournament offhand?
Is it May? Yeah, May. And the nice thing is, normally when they go to Simplot's one weekend, we're going to do it in 2 weekends so we can bring more people here. So it'll be 2 weekends.
Okay, and infrastructure-wise, I imagine that's a lot of undertaking, so
Yes.
please help us help you if there's something specific you know of that we need to address. Please let us know early so that the end of April. And then just finally, just a comment, Mr. Mayor, I don't think they play soccer in Chile. I may be wrong.
They play football.
Thank you.
You set that one up perfectly for me. Thank you so much. So, okay, yes, Councilor Dittenberg.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. So I did some real quick math, and it looks like you need 36 fields every weekend to play. Where are all your fields at, and where do you play?
At Brothers Park.
All of them are
We
there?
all sneak into Brothers Park. It's very compact, and we figure out how to keep the games rotating and moving. And now that we joined a new league, actually Inferno, BTT, Surf, Storm created a new league called the IPL. We'll have more games at Brothers Park now, moving forward, instead of everything being shipped to Boise. They'll be shipped here. We'll have home field here at Brothers Park.
One other follow-up question. So how are the logistics of getting people on and off the fields? Who yells at them and tells them to move? Because
Our council members and me, I'm out, if anyone knows me, I'm out at the field Saturday from 7 in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm always you can always go see me grilling burgers and hot dogs for everybody out there, and making sure everything moves smoothly as we go along.
Excellent, awesome. Yes, thank you so much, really do appreciate it. And thank you for coming. I think it's important for not only the council, but the community members as well to hear about the great things happening like the Inferno Soccer Club and what you all do. So really appreciate you coming down and enlightening us. So we'll make him speak next time, so.
I doubt he'll make me sweet.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, I was a football fan too until my daughter started playing soccer.
Okay, awesome, thank you so much, appreciate that. Okay, that is the only special presentation we had for this evening, so we'll move into our audience participation. Okay, so we do have quite a few signed up on here. And so I know several of you have indicated for irrigation. We do have some indicated to speak on the parking meters. So I know that in regards to the irrigation, we will provide you to come up and say your piece. But just want to make sure that, my understanding is that, I think it's Golden Gate Irrigation District's having some issues. They had a meeting yesterday and informed the people attending to come to city council tonight to ask council for, I believe, some grants, something of that nature to fix the issues that they're having. So we would love for you to come and and to say your piece on that, but I would also encourage you, did Rob sneak off? There he is. He's in the big boy chair tonight. So Rob McDonald will wave his hand, and then is Ashley here? She is not. Okay, so he is our Public Works Director. So our irrigation that we have in the city falls under Public Works. So it would probably be really good for all of you to speak to him in regards to the issues and concerns on that regards. And even since there's so many of you here tonight, it might not even be a bad idea to step outside after you're done speaking and to perhaps just have an informal meeting out in the lobby area with Mr. McDonald. He can give you some more information on that. So we do invite you to come forward. We'll call you forward on that. But if you could keep it short and brief, and then know that we'll give you the chance to meet with Mr. McDonald immediately once you're done, just right outside in the hallway to kind of discuss some of the issues that you're dealing with right now. It is a separate entity, the Golden Gate Irrigation District, so the city does not have any control or authority over that, or funds in order to assist in that nature, but there may be things that perhaps Mr. McDonald can be aware of to make you aware of as you move forward in that direction. So as you do come forward, if you could, again, limit those comments to a minute or less would be great, and knowing that you will have the opportunity to meet with Mr. McDonald immediately after in the foyer. So we'll begin with Rebecca Straight, if you'd like to come forward.
Hi.
And if you could just state your name for the record, we'd appreciate it.
My name is Rebecca Straight, and we're here for the irrigation. It's been a few years since we've had water. They sent someone out to fix it. They fixed it, but it's still, I still can't get irrigation water. So I have to use my city water, which I'm not supposed to do, but I don't have a choice. So,
Yeah, no, we appreciate that, and that is difficult to be
Thank you.
put in that situation. So Jamel Bartrup? And again, if you could just state your name, we'd appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Janelle Bartrop. A lot of you might know my daughter-in-law, Joanna, that works for you. But anyway, I live in 508 East Kearney. I've been there for 35 years or more. Lost my husband 2 years ago, almost 2 years. And I'm just trying to keep my property green. I mean, and I can't get any irrigation. It did come up a little bit, and I did get about half of my backyard, but other than that, nothing. And I'd sure like to get a hold of some water.
Yeah.
I don't know, can we do a GoFundMe page? I mean, geez.
That may be a possibility, but those would be great questions, and I'm sure Mr. McDonald will cover all that with you
Okay,
right after
thank
this.
you.
So yes, thank you so much. Lupe Sanchez? Yes.
This seems to be something that's common knowledge, but I'm not familiar with it. Is this something we've addressed or working on? Or?
So it is not, like, the reason I know is because Joanna actually mentioned it to me with her mother-in-law. So there was, and if this is incorrect, please correct me on this. I believe there was a meeting yesterday with the Golden Gate Irrigation District
Yes. It
Last
was
week.
Last Tuesday.
last week. They're going over, so they are having serious issues, as you've heard.
Yes, we are.
These people have not had water for quite some time. I imagine still being charged for
Yes.
it, but without the
We
service.
still get our bill
Yeah.
every year.
Well, and they said that if we don't pay, they're gonna put liens on our property,
On our
which is not
properties.
right.
And so they had a meeting last week and kind of discussing it, and that they don't have the money, the infrastructure to fix the issue, and encourage them all to come to city council tonight to air those grievances, thinking that the city can step in and do something, and we are limited in what we can do. So If anybody at Golden Gate's listening, sorry to say this, but kind of passing the buck, to be honest, on to the city. And I'm not sure of their circumstances of why they're not able to keep it up. Mr. McDonald may be more aware of that, but that's kind of, they had a meeting to discuss the issues, and they were encouraged by the board, if I'm not mistaken, to come to city council to air those grievances here.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, no,
Appreciate it.
no problem at all, appreciate that. Okay?
Our
Yes.
issue to come to the meeting today was for us to have a talk with you guys to see if the city could take over our irrigation stuff, you know, because we don't have water. Our lawns are dead, what you call dead, they're yellow. And, you know, we could always have like a fire or something out there because all we do is have yellow grass. But we do need help really bad.
Yeah, and you have not had any water this entire year,
We have not
correct?
had water like for,
2-3 years.
no, it's been longer. My mom passed away in '07, and it's been about that long that we have not had water. And we asked the irrigation guy, and he says, we turn it on, I turn it on, I turn it off. And what do?
Nothing comes out.
Nothing.
Yep.
So,
Okay, don't appreciate, are you Marty?
I'm Marty.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we own the same property.
Okay, very good. Yes, I appreciate
you.
that.
I have a question.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to ask a question if I may.
Do you mind coming back real quick for a quick question?
Sorry. Has somebody done the counting, what they've done with the money that you folks have contributed to the
well,
irrigation?
we did talk to that guy that we had the meeting with last Tuesday. He said all the money gets distributed by paying stuff that they have done, you know, that they're back paying, and then they get paid, then the lady that receives the money gets paid. By the time all the money gets distributed, they're only left like with $1,000, $2,000.
And unfortunately, 2 years ago, we had a lien on our property. That's why I'm saying it's not fair to us, because we pay it, but we don't get it. So why should we have to pay it?
That was one of our questions to that
So
man.
do you have several meetings with them each year?
No,
It's every Tuesday, they say, once a month, every Tuesday,
Okay.
over at 411, I think it is.
Do they ever supply a balance sheet or a profit and loss statement at all?
No, they just showed it to us
Really?
there, and that was it. Some
Okay.
of the people took pictures of it with their phones and everything, but I don't know if they're here or what, but yeah,
So no accounting per se has been
the
supplied?
accountant gets paid, but that's all she does is receive the money.
Okay. But you don't get a balance sheet or profit and loss
No.
statement at all?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I just want to be caught up too. Are they bankrupt or like, why aren't they supplying the water?
I am not certain, to be honest, and I mean, it would be a great question for Golden Gate Irrigation District. I said, you know, we have our own irrigation district here at the city, but it is
So,
completely separate. and
If Golden Gate, I'm gonna guess it's sort of separate, like Pioneer Irrigation
yep,
or whatever. So can we invite them to a meeting to talk to us if it's affecting people in our community?
Yeah, we definitely can.
So
Whether
maybe-
they come or not, we're not sure, but we can.
Well, I mean, maybe we can
them.
invite them here as
Yeah.
a council and just kind of ask them why they're not providing our citizens water.
Well, this guy who has our meetings, he's one of the members of the board, but I don't know how many there is, you know.
Well, I guess my question then is, how do they get water?
So it looks like some of them have reverted to using their city water as the only
Well,
option
yeah.
on that. But I could definitely, so what I can do is reach out to Golden Gate with a formal invitation to come to an upcoming city council meeting to answer those questions and to inform the council. Because obviously, as you mentioned, it is a separate district, but they are culpable citizens. So-
Right, so if they come up and they say, well, we don't have any money or we don't have any water, then what do we do for them?
That's a great question.
Like,
That's
what, you know, I
something-
mean, can they go to another irrigation district or the city or?
Some of those boxes on this side of town are overflowing in the middle of the street. But the only thing is that we can't run them towards our way. And if we call the irrigation guy, that's what he gets paid for, is to go and transfer the water.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, I mean, I think we all hear everything that is gonna come forward, but what I'm trying to figure out is, like, what's the solution if they're not going to provide the water? So can you join another irrigation district? Do they have like the monopoly on this area? Can you join into the city? Those are the kind of questions I feel like we need answers to know how we can support you.
And what might be best is, rather than just kind of ad hocing this, is perhaps looking into that and come back with some detailed information
Can we
at the
do
next
that?
council meeting.
What if we do that? What if we have our Public Works Director come up with some of those answers, like how we can best help? And then we'll invite those Golden Gate people here, and then you guys come back and we discuss it then, instead of just repeating the same concern, because we got it. But now we have to figure out how to handle it.
Yep.
Would that work?
Yeah, I think it would,
Okay.
because as long as it's not the same guy we go to.
Well, no, I'm sure, like, and that's what I mean, it's like,
There's more of them.
certainly, like, we'll get some actual answers. He'll get the answers, for sure, 100%. But
We
maybe,
get a letter every year.
Yeah.
And that's our bill.
well, you shouldn't have to pay for something you're not getting or lien, but maybe you can give him your information, so when that meeting gets set with them, then he can get a hold of you, and you can let everybody know, and then we come back and deal with something. Would that work? Or whoever wants to give their
Well,
information.
there is quite a few of us, so it would be better if he just gives us a paper and we all sign.
Yeah.
And put our address at.
Oh, well, you have that paper, right?
Yeah, for sure. And then also,
Okay.
so we also have Julia Petrosini, or something like that, is that right? And then Javier that has signed up. So Ashley Newbury, the Deputy Director of Water Quality, just walked in. Perfect timing, Ashley, by the way. So what I would recommend, since there are so many of you here, we still will have that meeting in the future, but since so many of you are here, and Rob, maybe you go out there too with Ashley so she knows exactly what's going on. We don't blindside her too much. She is a genius, and she is amazing what she does. So she is over our irrigation district here at the city, so they can answer some of your questions. So I would recommend all of those people, again, that had spoke, and then also Julia, Javier Petrosini, to go out into the foyer area. And then any questions that you have, they can try to answer those, and then we will set up a time in the future to reach out to Golden Gate, make a formal invitation for them to come to council and discuss this issue in that regard, and try to get some of those questions answered. But again, since so many of you are here, we'd like to try to get maybe a few questions answered tonight and kind of let you know the direction that it can go. So we'd invite you to go out into the foyer out here with Mr. McDonald and Ms. Newbury, and they can try to answer some of your questions in that regards, if that will work for you. So, okay, thank you so much again for coming. We appreciate that. And yes, we will be reaching out to Golden Gate in the very near future. Okay, so we do have a few others that have signed up on other matters. So Bob Clark. So if you could please come forward, and then if you could state your name, and then you'll have 3 minutes to provide your information.
I'm Bob Clark. You're familiar with me. Want to talk about the parking meters. There's a big problem in downtown Caldwell, and I think there's a big disconnect between you guys and the business community here. Because we were never contacted. I've been a businessman down here for 13 years. I'd like to ask this question. Does anybody here on the council currently own a business in downtown Caldwell? And the answer is no, and that probably explains the disconnect, why you really don't care about the businesses in downtown Caldwell. You didn't care about us before you put in the parking meters, and we've been here for 3 weeks, 3 months, probably 24 businesses like my own. I own a business here, been here 13 years, and we've been telling you that we have problems down here. Most of the people are down 25, 30% on their sales. The chop shop came in, he lost $25,000. I talked to the Spice Company, Craig, before I came over here, who said his sales are down 25% since the parking meters. But this disconnect is, proof of that disconnect is tonight on your agenda, you're not even talking about parking meters. To you, the problem's solved, and hopefully people like me will just go away, but we're not going to go away until the parking meters are gone. We're not going to stop this fight until the parking meters are gone. And I don't think you understand the gravity of the situation here. And after all these people have come down and explained this problem, there's a disconnect, and I think just a downright disrespect. And we've all come to the same conclusion that either you're just totally indifferent, you don't care, and don't give a crap about the business community, or you're just arrogant and treating us like the politicians in Washington, D.C. No matter how much you complain, they say, we know better, we're smarter than you, we're better than you, and you have to obey our rules, and we'll rule with a rod of iron. That's not the kind of government we want in Caldwell, Idaho. Indifference or arrogance. I think, from my perspective, you've dug in your heels and you've decided you're not going to do anything. And if that's the case, I want you to consider this, that right now, today, you are harming every day veteran-owned businesses like mine, and there's 6 other veterans downtown whose businesses are languishing because of parking meters. I've had my own customers tell me they're not coming back as long as there's meters in downtown Caldwell. They don't want meters. We don't want meters. You're harming women-owned businesses. Like my friend Darcy over at the Undiscovered Barrel, she would be here tonight, but she had a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce. Her business is down, and she's angry about it. She'll be here next month. And then there are minority-owned businesses. You don't want to hear this. What do you have against minorities? Because there's 3 Hispanics in my basement with businesses that are languishing and they're hurting and they're talking about it, and they're not going to be able to feed their families. Maybe they're not going to make rent. They're not going to be able to make rent on the space that they have. And these minority women, and one of them is a Filipino, she got the solution. She's leaving. She's leaving downtown Caldwell. She's not going to deal with the parking meters, but we've got minority women, Hispanic women that are hurting, minority businesses are hurting.
If you could go ahead and just wrap it up.
And I'm asking you to reconsider this arrogant stance against the people, because and 3 of these women are getting ready to go on TV and radio and talk to newspapers. And I don't know if the word racist comes up, attached to your city council, because you're denying the ability of Hispanic women to make a living in downtown Caldwell because of parking meters that they know is a problem, and refuse to do anything about it.
So your time is
What
up.
are the consequences?
So I am, and the other council members may want to say something, but I can guarantee you that every council member up here cares about the downtown and about the downtown businesses, myself included. This has nothing to do with race, with economic status, anything of that nature. So this has to do with looking at downtown Caldwell. There are things in place. We are looking at that, to have additional workshops, working towards that. I know, and we got our economic development director here. So you had mentioned many different types of businesses. We can name off businesses of the same stature, the same nature, that are grateful for the parking meters. It's a mixed bag. There's people that really don't like them. There's people that really do, and some people in the middle. So I can tell you this has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with who owns the business. And every member up here, I guarantee you, cares about those businesses, and that does not weigh into their decision of what you stated in that regards.
There's some Hispanic women that are really angry.
And there's some that are very pleased with them. So I don't know if anybody.
have something to say.
Yes.
Are you coming back, Bob? Well, I don't have a question, but I have something to say. So you and I spoke about this in person, the parking meters, and when we discussed that, we had this whole conversation about how the contract would come up for renewal in October, and was it better to see how that played out during that vote instead of trying to cause this fight to rip them out over the next month and a half or 2 months or whatever it was. We were on the same page about that. And so at the last meeting, there were lots and lots of people that came and spoke. Almost every single person up here on the council spoke. And we decided to take some time to gather more comments and then have another meeting so that we could make some changes right now that would be beneficial, and then revisit this in October when this contract comes up. But one thing I just want to be clear about, even though I don't like the meters, I'm not in support of them, you know this, we've had this conversation, it doesn't have anything to do with a racial profile or a financial or economic profile, and I've spoken to a lot of those business owners as well, and I've not heard any of them bring that up. So I don't want to create a bigger problem or make it, or bring this other issue into it when that's really not there. Like, in truthfulness, it's not there. Do I think the
I
parking meters?
disagree with that statement.
Well, and that's
I
fine.
could introduce you to some people who would disagree with you.
Then I'll come down there and I'll talk to you about it. Just like I talked to you about it when I was down there. I'm totally willing to have the conversation, but there has to be a way to do something right now that will be helpful to everybody. And then hopefully in October, hopefully the contract doesn't get voted on, or doesn't get a positive vote. That's kind of where we stand. But let's just not, I don't want to make it ugly, you know what I mean? That's all.
It's already ugly.
Okay, uglier.
Okay. Thank you for those comments, Councilor Register, appreciate that. Next on our list is Robert and Nancy Roberts. Good to see you this evening.
My name is Nancy Roberts. I live at 823 Albany Street in Caldwell. I agree with Mr. Park not wanting those meters downtown. The particular type of meters that we have are an extreme problem. They take too much time. And when the weather is fine, no big deal. It's going to be snowing, and I'm not going to want you standing out there for 5 minutes trying to get the stupid thing to work. And so I'd like to see them gone. I'd like to see, over time, I've watched the city take away parking. They take away parking at the corners, they take away parking in the mid part of the streets, and I know they added some, but we need a parking garage, so start saving money. I have a different issue tonight. I'm living in the North Caldwell Historic District. I've had trouble over the years with the city making a mess of the district in my particular area. So when they did some street work a couple of years back, maybe 3, I'm not good with time, to replace some big sewer lines. I think they were big lines going through there down to the courthouse and that new administrative building, and then they never finished the job, and the contractors were bankrupt, and so when I moved there in 2009, the streets were old, but they were good looking. They weren't cracked, they weren't potted. And now they're dark on one side, very light on the other side. The big heavy machinery cracked the streets around my house and made potholes. It took me a year and a half to get them to even put anything in the potholes. So it just looks bad. It devalues my property. And now I can't seem to get anybody interested in the North Caldwell Historic District to preserve its historicity and how nice it looks and what a benefit it is to the city. Like the house across the street, which was the parsonage, used to look nice. Now it looks like a circus, and I've kind of reconciled myself to that because I like that lady who's living there, but it doesn't look right in the historic district. And now you wanted to move the John Rice building in. What was that, a week or so ago? Which is nice, but you know, I have a tree out in front of my house that's over 100 years old. I've taken time and money to have it professionally taken care of over the years, and now they have sliced off half of it on the street side. So, and Diane, I have pictures if you want any of my packet. Anyway, now it says really defaced that tree. It will live, but it's devalued my property and ticked me off righteously. So that tree will never recover. It may live, it may not become diseased because it's a linden tree and they're tough, but they've really, really made a horrible mess there. I would like to see the city take more interest in their historic districts. The nation does. Why can't Caldwell step in and have some say about it? Let's preserve these sites and stop tearing them down. I think that was about all I had. Let me look at my notes. I'm going to let it go at that. Thank
Okay,
you
very
very
good.
much.
Thank you so much
the
for coming.
time.
And our planning and zoning director is here, and she oversees the Historic District and Historic Preservation Commission, so I'm sure she was taking notes on that and continue to look at that, see what can we do to continue to enhance and beautify those areas, because I know you've done a wonderful job in your home, and yeah, it's a beautiful landmark in there, so we want to continue to make that better. So really do appreciate you coming this evening and
Thank you.
sharing those thoughts. Okay, and that is all that is signed up for our audience participation. So that will move us into our, we do have a couple amendments on the consent agenda, so we'll move into that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to amend the consent calendar by moving items 11, 12, and 13 to the new business for further discussion and remove the minutes of July 2nd, 2024, item number 2 for consideration of approval at this time.
Very good. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
So a motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stoddard for amendment to the agenda as noted. Any discussion? All those in, so this is, I can't read what that, I guess if I think that's the approval of the, approve consent calendar. So this is, so this motion is for the amendment itself, not for the approval of the consent calendar. So it would not be for this vote right here. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Now we would stand for a motion for approval of the consent calendar as amended.
So moved.
And a second? Second. So motion from Counselor Stoddard, or Counselor Doty, and a second from Counselor Register for approval of the consent calendar as amended. So now you are ready to vote.
I'm a yes, whether it goes.
There he goes. There we go. Okay, so all votes are cast, so voting is closed. And was that supposed to be a green? Or? So was that meant to be a yes, Counselor Stoddard?
Yes.
Okay, so we will note that. So that was a unanimous, all in favor decision on that. Okay, so we will jump right into those items that were moved down to, because there is no old business, so we're going to go into news business, and we'll start with, we'll just go 11, 12, 13. So the first is to approve the request for execution of an agreement with Bam Jam for an event in downtown Caldwell on August 2nd to the 4th, 2024. So we do have Angie Point, one of our deputy clerks, here to present on that, as well as Danae Warren, the executive director of Destination Caldwell.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We're just going to give a quick summary of this event, as well as you should have all received the same summary that we're going to be reading off of, as well as the map of the plan where the courts are going to go and such. So, and we'll be referring to that. Do you have that? Okay. He has the map up there. So, Bam Jam, it's a 3-on-3 outdoor basketball tournament. It's been in Caldwell for the last, will be the 4th year that we've had it here. It's a coordinated effort between Destination Caldwell, the City of Caldwell, and Select Basketball. Destination Caldwell usually takes the lead each year, and they work with the tournament organizer in coordinating the details and submitting the applications and the site plans and the traffic control plans for the special event and right-of-way permits. Because there's road closures, we need right-of-way permits as well. In 2022, Destination Caldwell, with input from the city and Select Basketball, drafted and finalized the agreement that you have in front of you, which has essentially remained the same over the years. Each entity reviews that every year and offers changes if changes need to be made, and if not, then we bring it to you for the final signature for the city. The nice thing about the agreement is it consolidates all the responsibilities for each entity into one document, so we all are clear on what we're responsible for. For the last 2 years, we've also met as a special event review team. We have a special event review team. We're both on that. City staff, the organizer is present, and safety services is present, and we all talk to the organizer at a specific time. This year, the meeting was last week on Wednesday upstairs, and we talk to them about what their plans are. If there are any concerns from police or fire, they bring them up. And then we discuss any other items that staff have concerns about. Road closures for this event, that's what this map up here is for. Typically, they close, or we close, Arthur Street between the plaza and the creek, and between the Verns and Kimball, so that area will have basketball courts on it. We close the Nancola Center parking lot. That will have basketball courts and vendors and food truck or two. The food vendors downtown are those are some of the food vendors, and they're in the TVC parking lot, not to take away from downtown businesses who also provide food services. So there's a wide variety that people have to choose from. The final tournament game will be on Indian Creek Plaza. And that'll be the last day. Yeah, and then the city provides bleachers from the CEC, Caldwell Event Center, for those final games. If you look up here, everywhere that's yellow, there will be basketball courts set up in those areas. The pink on the Nancola Center lot shows it's emergency access, so that there will not be anything in that area, so that if police or fire need to come in, they have easy access to come in and take care of whatever the issue might be. So the Nancola, this event starts on Friday night. However, they take all of Friday to set up. So the road closures will start Thursday night at 8 p.m. and the agreement, I just noticed today, says 5 p.m., but it starts at 8 p.m. on Thursday evening, and will go through Sunday afternoon. Because the Nancola slot will be closed on Friday, then city employees will be asked to park at the gravel lot between, on the corner of Arthur and Fifth Avenue, across from the previous city employee lot when we were at 411 Blaine. There is also parking, because TVCC does not hold classes on Fridays. The lot that's dedicated to them, that's the old employee lot, can also be used for parking. Anything I missed?
No. Destination Caldwell pulled a placer report for this event. It draws about 5,400 people over 3 days. And so the city brought that event to Destination Caldwell 4 years ago. And so we manage and support it, but we do have a third-party promoter. It's probably the premier, if you follow basketball, the premier youth 3-on-3 tournament in the Northwest, in our opinion. And so we're very lucky to have it here. It supports downtown businesses, and it's the exact type of family-friendly event we want in downtown Caldwell.
Very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Questions from council? Councilor Doty.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So I have this pulled, and it's, I just want it to be known that I 100% support Bam Jam, and it does bring a lot of people downtown, and so I see them lined up at some of the businesses that aren't even open. So I want that to start, that I support Bam Jam. What I'm looking for is fairness, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone in the room or Mr. Mayor, but does Bam Jam give us any money to hold their event in our town?
It's a free event for the community. We do not charge them any money. Destination Caldwell partners with them to support downtown businesses.
Right.
And the city does not charge them either. It's a coordinated three-entity event. It's the city-sponsored event. City, Bam Jam, and Destination Caldwell.
Yeah, so my issue is it true that if you shut down a city street for something other than Bam Jam, let's just say, are we charging $120 a stall for the parking meter stalls if you shut down a city street?
Not true.
What, can you educate me on that?
So we actually had this discussion in our roundtable meeting last week.
Great.
So I've talked to Amber in the engineering department. She takes care of all the right-of-way permits. We had that question come up because there's been some talk that the engineering is working on a new fee schedule and working through right-of-way permits and fees for different things. Events are not contractors, so it's hard to determine how that's going to play out. I did talk to Amber today as well, and she said it's looking like the fee schedule per parking place is going to be closer to $30 a space. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I can answer that a little bit more closely too.
I
So,
would love to have you do this.
with the Destination Caldwell events, there was an ordinance that was passed by council that Destination Caldwell, as part of the city, is not required to pay our right-of-way fees. So because the BAM Jam is through partnered with Destination Caldwell, they're not required to pay fees. For other events currently that are taking place outside of Destination Caldwell, our fee schedule would still apply, and it is $30 per stall. I don't recall, I think that the local road is $110 to close the local road. I don't remember that
Total?
exactly. Yeah, but I would have to double check on our fee schedule. So it's $110 for a local road and $30 per stall, outside of Destination Caldwell.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
So that was my point. That's a lot better than the 120, and that's why I said anybody in the room that has information, give it. That's still a lot better. I just wanted it to be fair for our local business folks downtown. If they're paying for a stall and then Bam Jam's gonna come take up, I don't know how many stalls are in the TVCC parking lot. Maybe somebody in the room does. It doesn't really matter. I think you get my point, is that we're not charging them anything to shut down all of those stalls, even though it may be a city event and a Destination Caldwell event. I'm here for fairness, so that our businesses also that support this town every day, not just on one weekend out of the year, that we're being fair to them. And certainly 30 is much better than 120 a stall, and I'll reevaluate that, but I certainly want it brought to the forefront that we should be paying attention to our local businesses as well, and not just the weekend people, and if we throw them under a certain category, it's all scot-free, and if we don't, because I'm sure the local businesses can get Destination Caldwell to sign off on some of their events and then get the parking stalls free as well. And so I just want to make sure that it's fair and we consider that. And I am happy to hear that it's at least 30, but I would still like us to look at that a little bit further, so.
So, and just FYI, for events, they have not been charging per stall. It's been a rate by the road, what type of road is being shut down. So event organizers have not been paying per stall. They've been paying per event.
Okay.
For
Mr.
per
Mayor?
road.
Yeah.
per event.
Yeah, and that's good to hear, and I think it sounds like some more discussion has happened since maybe that figure was given to a local business here in town, because I have not heard them, when they talk to me, change that number. So have we reached out to them to make sure they know it's not 120 per stall?
There were two business owners at the meeting last week.
Okay.
And we had talked about, there was a family emergency so that Amber couldn't be there.
That's
And
okay.
so I told them I would check in with Amber and find out. And so I relayed that information to Ophelia because she had been talking to them and she.
I see
agreed
Ophelia
to-
all over downtown, so.
Yes, and she agreed to go down and talk to both of them to make sure that they were all clear.
Okay.
On what the plan was.
All right, thank you very much. I'll follow up to make sure, and then if they have any other questions, I guess I'll send them your way or the mayor's way. How's that sound? Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, very good. Then, is there any discussion or any motions regarding this item?
Let me see what it is. I'll make a motion to approve it. Let me just see how we want to word it here. Let me flip my screen. Give me 1 second, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Mayor, I move that we execute the agreement with Bam Jam for an event in downtown Caldwell on August 2 through 4, 2024.
Very good. Do we have a second? We have a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Allgood in regards to approval of this request for this execution of this agreement. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, then the voting is open at this time. All votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that passes with.
Chuck again?
Was that meant to be a green, Councilor Stoddick? Yes, sir. Okay, so we'll note that. So that does pass unanimously with all councilors voting in favor
I'm
of it.
taking this away from.
Okay, so on to number 12. Well, it was consent item 12, now move down to new business. This is the approved request for an alcohol beverage license for Tiki's Shaved Ice and Bar. Madam, oh, there's, I didn't see her. Are you going to cover this one, Debbie, or? Okay.
Well, I can just do it from here.
Yes, please do so.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay, so I reached out to Counselor Stotty because he had some concerns in regards to the site there where the application has been made for the Tiki Bar. And the concern is if Safety Services were aware, and if the applications are processed by routing them to the various departments that would have some type of input. And I assured everyone that all new alcohol beverage license applications are signed off by several departments. One is the Planning and Zoning, the Caldwell Fire Department, Caldwell Police Department, and the building official before ever coming to you for your final consideration and the mayor's signature with that. In this way, the staff work with the clerk's office and the applicant to make sure that all the areas of concern are corrected and addressed prior to any license being issued by our department. And in this particular situation, I have been in close contact with Detective Rodine from the Idaho State Police Alcohol Beverage Control. They have met personally on the site with the owner as well as one of our police officers to explain the expectations of this license, and everyone is in agreement with that. So they have obtained the state license already. They have obtained the county license, and it's just now the city. They cannot operate without all three. So this is the final leg of that. And then we have been working closely with the Planning and Zoning Director because there has also been some concerns with the business license or business permit. And I believe, Ms. Collins, you might want to speak to that, but I believe that those issues have been resolved.
Mayor and council, yes, she has submitted her business permit. We're simply waiting for her to pay the fees. She did reach out to us today to learn how she could pay those fees. So I would say by tomorrow it would probably be resolved.
Okay. So there has been inspections of the site and everything is a go on our end, just waiting for the final approvals.
Yes.
Good. I just want to thank Debbie for that, because like I say, several years ago, we did have a problem with some of the bars downtown. I just want to make sure that we don't repeat mistakes we made in the past. So
Exactly.
Thanks, Debbie, for all your work.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions? If not, is there a motion regarding this item? Councilor Doty.
I'll make the motion to approve the request for ABC license for Tiki Shaved Ice and Bar at 416 Lake.
And a second?
Second.
So motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddick. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is open. And all votes are cast, the voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. It worked this time, Councilor Stoddick.
I think somebody set me up here.
So that moves us into number 13, approve resolution authorizing the execution of a parking lease agreement with Tom Veazey for the lease of 10 parking stalls located at 712 Cleveland Boulevard. Steve, are you presenting this one, or is Doug?
All right, a little pregame strategy right there, but Commission or Council, thank you for having me this evening. Appreciate that, and I'll just start off with a couple modifications. Exhibit A in the packet that was provided was off base. Actually, it was the parking lot that's owned by the city is 712 Cleveland Boulevard. It's since been updated. I sent that to Douglas Waterman, our legal counsel here, but I sent that today, so I don't know if it's been updated or not. Probably not, but just want to make that clear from the aerial view. It looks identical, that parking lot does, so I apologize for that error. The second thing that I'd like to address is that, in speaking with Thomas Veazey, the individual that liked to undertake this lease, he recommended that we look at starting or beginning this lease in January 1st of 2025. So what that does is that gives them time, that he owns the building at 716 Blaine Street, so that allows a little bit of time for them to find a tenant to occupy the space, and of course allows for that parking to be in place. In speaking to legal counsel, we thought it might be best to bring this back at a later date, but want your recommendation on that approach, whether we do something now in terms of solidifying this proposed lease, and of course I can address any questions that you have prior to. And in fact, we can do that either way, but also wanted your recommendation on timing on when we should present this back to you for your consideration. So I will say also, in working with Mr. Veazey, He has improved about 4 buildings in the downtown Caldwell area. We have obviously a strong mission and vision here in our downtown to really make these enhancements and improve and revitalize old historic buildings, and he's done just that. He's actually working on 716 Blaine Street right now with the improvements that he has in place there. We're talking new roof, updates to the interior, and also at 619 Main Street. He spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in our community. And of course, when he asked for some assistance with parking as it pertains to his building at 716 Blaine, he had my immediate attention, and we sought to work through a solution on that. And this parking lot in general isn't used very frequently. The city was able to purchase 602 Cleveland Boulevard, and we have city vehicles at that location. We also have access to 616 Dearborn Street. Thanks to the good graces of Christ Community Church and the ability to work out that lease there to allow for the city to utilize that parking area as well, which is about a half acre. So between those two lots, we felt that, our team felt that 712 Cleveland was underutilized, and we could consider this lease opportunity for those 10 stalls. And there's 15 stalls total in that parking lot, by the way. So with that, I will stand for any questions you have.
Perfect, thank you so much. Councilor Doty.
Mr. Mayor, I pull it clearly, as with every meeting, parking's a hot topic right now, so I thought in full transparency, we'd call it out and see what the lease was about so that everybody knows that we're about to give up some more parking to leased parking, which is at least better than giving it away for free. Are we able to pull it up just to ensure we have the right map of what Mr. Jenkins wants us to see versus, I do see it in the packet, is this the updated one in the packet?
It's basically a block over
Yeah,
from what was shown on that, so it's right next to the the Sinclair gas station off of Cleveland.
Yeah.
So,
Sinclair.
You don't go over here to Chris, Chris is gonna pull that.
I've got the old location pulled up. You said it's Cleveland or not Blaine?
Cleveland. So the building that's owned, that Tom Beasy owns there is at 716 Blaine Street. The parking lot that is under consideration for this lease is at 712 Cleveland.
so we're
Right
like
next to the
Hibbert
Snickers.
Construction,
Yeah.
if you know that building.
So
That's
the
the one right
vehicles
next.
parked there for years. I remember which place you're talking
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Mr. Mayor, so I guess what I was looking for is to make sure that it was brought to council's attention and that if there are any comments or concerns about the lease with what we have going on in town, I just wanted it brought to light that this lease is in place, and if there was any comments on that is what I was really searching for.
Yeah, perfect, excellent, thank you so much. Any questions for Steve or any comments or discussion, or? Yes, Councilor, all good.
I was, are we acting on this tonight, or are we just discussing it?
I think it is an action item, correct?
Yes, Mayor, Councilor, all good, either or. Really, the proposal is for the lease to actually start or commence on January 1st, 2025, and that's a new modification to what you had been provided previously. And the question was, of course, we could undertake this process now and kind of solidify the terms in preparation for that, or we can bring this back to the council for your consideration at a later date.
And the reason I was asking these questions was I was a little concerned about what we were charging for those spots. And where I'm going is we have a lot to iron out with our downtown parking. And I'm just thinking maybe delaying it a little while until we know the value of those parking spots before we make a final decision is where I was going with that.
So on that, is it not the same, because people can, like, for example, in the treasure, where we're at right now, you can lease those spots by the month. So any of the surface lots, somebody could lease, so if there's a business owner that wants to get a monthly permit for their employees, they could do that. And I think it's the same fee, correct, that you would pay if you wanted to get a spot, like in the CVCC
Can
lot?
you tell me what that cost is?
$40.
$40 per
correct?
stall, yeah, per month.
$40 per stall per month?
And I think that's what's being charged in this,
Yes.
correct?
And that's where I was going. I want
Yeah.
to make sure we were consistent with everything we were doing. And so that's where I was going with that.
Yes, Councilor Doty.
Oh, sorry, Councilor Register, I didn't see you right away.
Well, I was going to say I agree with what Councilor Allgood was saying, that this is half a year away. So whatever changes in between now and then, we don't, depending on I mean, we're locking ourselves in once again to something in the future, and I think we should wait.
Thank you.
Counselor Williams?
Thank you,
And then
Mr.
we'll go
Mayor.
to Counselor Doty. Oh, you're-
Steve, thank you again. The question that comes to my mind now, because we're learning from our past situations, who's currently parking there? And once we then lease this out, who will we be displacing that will be in this chamber telling us that we took their parking away from them?
Great question. Counselor Williams, really, it's used sporadically, not very frequently, and there are a couple businesses that are adjacent to the area. We had a lease there from 2009 to 2016 with Hibbert Construction, the building that's adjacent to this parking lot. That lease dissolved in 2016. However, some of the businesses in the area continue to use that public parking lot that was there. Again, we don't have very many people that use it. I frequent the area, of course, and don't see too many cars. I've never seen it full, to be honest with you. Really, it's one of those things where the city was utilizing it more so than not, as was referenced by Councilor Allgood, but we were able to purchase a lot that is just west of this property on 6th Avenue in Cleveland. And then, of course, we have access now to 616 Dearborn Street, which is a half acre. So between the two lots there, we didn't find a need as it relates to the city to utilize that parking lot there.
And it is signed saying City of Caldwell employees parking only. So that's probably why it's always empty, because it is signed saying you can only park here for city employees, so.
Yeah, and my recollection also, this may be worth mentioning, but we had a temporary agreement with Mike Mussel, with Mussel Construction, to utilize that parking lot during the construction phase of his project there at the Cleveland Event Center. And after that process was completed, we had a parking lot at 306 South Kimball that was dedicated to Mr. Mussel. So again, that lot, then that agreement then dissolved. But this consideration would be for a year. So at the end of that year, the expiration of the agreement with Mr. Veazey, we could certainly come back and renegotiate or do something different. That year time frame, I think, gives us a little bit of time to come back to the table if something changes in the future.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So, Steve, if you know, is this an actual lot then? This parking lot is a lot unto itself. It's not a part of the other properties on either side of it that is a city-owned property. So when did the city acquire this? What was our intention with it? And if this is excess property, maybe we sell this and put that towards our savings that Mrs. Roberts suggested toward a parking garage. Are there other things we should be considering with this property before we enter into a one-year lease?
Sure, Councilor Williams, I don't know exactly when it was purchased. The only history that I have available is the lease that we had years ago from 2009 to 2016. And that's all I'm familiar with as it pertains to that lot. I'm not sure exactly when it was purchased. I know it was acquired for employees for the city and probably city vehicles and whatnot. But of course, now that we've had these other properties in its place, I think it became less of that need and served another purpose to be more of a public lot. However, as the mayor referenced, there is a sign at the front of the parking lot indicating that's for city employee parking. But again, it's just not utilized in that way.
Thank you.
Counselor Doty?
Mr. Mayor, I think we should give it some more time, because that's a great point, Counselor Williams, that if we don't need it anymore, maybe we should sell it to him versus leasing it at such a low rate and just get rid of it if it's just a burden for us and city employees aren't using it, and then it becomes on the tax roll. So I think that's also a good idea. So I think we should at least give it some time to figure out what we should do and maybe the value of it if we were to sell it or auction it, so.
Counselor Stoddard?
Yeah, Mr. Jenkins, I had a question. If this was a parking meter and I parked there 8 hours per day, how much would that be?
So, Councilor Stark, we have a daily rate, maximum of $5 a day.
$5 a day? Okay, times, say, 5 days a week, that's $25, right?
Sure.
So I would think that we would at least equal what we charge for the meters for this property also, is my point. So, I mean, this is really cheap, in my opinion, compared to what we charge for the meters and stuff.
Yes, and my thought was really we're not gaining any revenue currently, right, for those stalls, and it's $40 per stall per month, so we're talking $400 a month there. which would help put a tenant in place to have some parking secured, to give us, some activation of that building at 716 Blaine. As I mentioned, Mr. Veazey had approached both business owners on either side of the property. He said he'd pay above market rate, and he said he'd even improve the parking lots of those neighboring properties. He just wasn't able to work through an agreement with those parties, so he had approached me, and I felt like we could bring this to the council for your consideration, but it's on the table, and you all can do what you like with it.
I just think it's too cheap, in my opinion, based on what the city charges our regular residents and visitors at the parking meter, so we should be, in my opinion, at least equal to that, but thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think it's important that it is the same price, and I know that it's confusing because the on-street is $1 an hour, but you can only park there 3 hours. So the off-street parking, like if you're in the parking lot here, the parking lot across the street, it is the same price as those. So it's $40 a month if you wanted to purchase for your employees or whatever. So it is the same price as that. On-street, not, but again, on-street, you can only park there for 3 hours currently. So that is the same, it is the same price that we are charging for anybody to park in a surface parking lot right now, if they wanted to do a monthly lease on it. Councilor Allgood?
Yeah, just a couple of things. The city acquired that property many, many years ago when City Hall was at 621 for employees to park. But the other thing is, in the interim, while we're figuring this out, I would love to see us take those city employee parking signs down so people could park there without being concerned they were going to get, I don't see any need to have those signs up there say city employee parking only. We're not using it. So if somebody else wanted to park there, I would be happy to open it up until we figure out the disposition of this property.
Okay, so do we have it sounds like the consensus is to continue this item. Do we have a motion for that? Yes.
I move that we table this item to a date uncertain until we figure out when we're closer to January what we're going to do. We'll recalendar it.
We're good. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor Allgood and a second from Councilor Static for tabling this item for notification in the future. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So that moves us into our, again, we are in new business, but our first item that's listed on here, this is an action item for an annexation request. ANN 24-4, Pedro Arredondo is requesting annexation of approximately 1/2 acre to include the full width of the adjacent right-of-way with an R1 zoning designation. And so we have Elias Arredondo and is it Michaela that are here? So we'll do a quick presentation from staff and then we'll jump into your testimony.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. I didn't print out my presentation, so I'm going to keep looking back every once in a while. Before you today is the Arredondo annexation. For subject site location, this is on the corner, or about 200 feet from the corner of South Kimball Avenue and Marvin Street. For conditions surrounding the subject site, there is residential on all the north, east, south, and west of the current site. For the application request, their applicant is requesting to annex 1.48 acres into the city under an R1 low-density residential zoning. For zoning and land use, this is currently surrounded by a county to the northeast and west and part of the south. The parcel to the south of it was just annexed into the city not too long ago. For comprehensive plan analysis, this subject site and surrounding sites are all low-density residential. For agency notifications, we did not receive any, and for public notifications, we also did not receive any. It's not in the slide, but the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval for this annexation, and that if council staff recommends if council approves the request, that such request is subject to the conditions as found in the FCOs. I stand for questions.
So I'm guessing that the reason for this request is to access city services.
That is
water and sewer,
correct.
is that
There's
correct?
currently a dwelling on the home that hasn't been finished yet, and so they're just trying to access the city services.
Perfect, excellent. Any questions for staff? Okay, very good, excellent.
Mr. Mayor, sorry,
Yeah.
one if I may.
Yeah.
Alex, do you know, I think you said it, that 3319 Kimball, I believe it is, So that's directly behind it, or I think that would be to the south if I'm looking at this map right. What is that property there? Is that county? Is that the one that you said is currently county?
So all the ones that do not have a color are in the county.
Yeah, I'm looking at the first page, so I don't know what you mean by the one that doesn't have a color. I'm trying to figure out
sorry.
what this big lot is right here.
And do you mean the first page of the staff report?
Yes, so that's all county, right? I'm gonna call it behind it.
Yes, so the 3319 is county, along with the 125 to the east, and the 1409 to the west, and the 116 to the south. Their touch is the 202 to the southeast corner for annexation.
See that? Okay. So do we know what 3319 is zoned at this time?
I believe they're zoned for county's low-density residential as well.
Okay. And I suppose the only reason I'm asking is I don't want to see us later on have this larger property have some other permit requested of it, and then this owner say, but I don't want a second-story building right behind my house because they're building two-story homes there. And so this, if we annex this, it's with the knowledge that there's essentially a lot behind it that could at some point have low-density housing built in it, which includes two-story buildings. Am I correct in that?
Councilor Williams, yes, that is correct. Currently in the R1 zone, which they would annex in if they were to join in, would be a max building height of 25 feet, which you can fit a two-story home in that. So there is that possibility, but the R1 also has a setback of 20 feet from the rear, so they could be set back quite a bit, depends on how they were to build their site.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, appreciate that. Okay, so we do have nobody signed up in opposition or neutral, just 2 in favor. So Elias, if you would please come forward. And if you could just state your name for the record, and then just give us a real brief description of what you're wanting to do and anything else additional you'd like to add.
Hello, everyone. So my name's Elias Arredondo. I'm here representing my father, Pedro Arredondo, who's actually the property owner. And he started building a new home there. We realized that was county and not city, so we were trying to annex into the cities to have access to city utilities and city services. The question you had for the gentleman, we know there's development in the area, so we're aware that if that lot gets annexed to, there could be a development there, so we do know that. There's a subdivision, I believe, if you go just a little bit past Kimball, that's brand new, so, but we like the area, but we kind of bummed out when we found out we didn't have city services, so we're trying to get the city services, so.
Very good, excellent, thank you so much. Any questions? Okay, thank you,
Thank you, guys.
appreciate you being here. And Mr. Sauceda, did you want to speak as well, or just that you're in favor?
Honestly, I don't know who that is.
Oh, McKaylee, oh, I wonder if that was for the other one. Okay, well, they're not here apparently. They may have been for the irrigation, just signed up on the wrong one, so, okay. Very good, appreciate that. So that is all that is signed up to testify. Do you have a motion to close the public testimony portion of this hearing?
So moved.
Motion from Counselor, I'm getting Counselor Doty, and a second from Counselor Stoddard to close public testimony portion of this hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. So that moves us into, if you do have questions for staff, they're available. Any discussion or any motions? Counselor Allgood.
I just had a question for staff. Do we have services down Marvin Street right now?
I believe there are, correct? I know that, I remember when those were put in, so.
Mayor and council, I was just looking at this over with with Haley, and it looks like they have water available at the moment, but sewer's still in, is it Kimball? Looks like it's still in Kimball.
So if I can follow up,
Yeah.
I would hate them to be putting in a septic tank if we're going to zone them into the city. How do we rectify that? They already have a septic tank?
I think it's a new build. Is there a septic tank on the property already?
Yeah, we installed the septic tank.
Okay, sounds like there is a septic tank already on the property.
Okay.
So,
All right, so they have
Okay.
city water but not city sewer at this point?
yep. Okay, very good. Counselor Doty.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
Since the septic tank is in, I'm guessing once the sewer gets there, they'll hook up to that and abandon that. Just want to make sure I'm on the right one here. Based on the findings of facts and conclusions of law, it says the mayor and city council, as the wording changes this maybe, the mayor and city council hereby order the case number ANN 24-04. Is that the correct one?
Yep.
The request for annexation is hereby approved to include the conditions of approval as outlined within the staff report.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stoddard for approval of the request. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is open. And all votes are cast, the voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. I have a motion to close this public hearing item.
So moved.
And a second?
We did.
There's a motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stoddard to close this public hearing item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Just the housekeeping item we have to do to close it, so. And we are on to action item number 2, which is a housekeeping item in regards to any annexation or rezone. We do need a bill and ordinance to follow that, so that is what this is Bill 34, Ordinance 3596, to finalize this annexation request. Do we have a sponsor of this bill and ordinance?
Mr. Mayor.
Counselor Doty.
Move to approve the passage of Bill 34, Ordinance 3596, and approve the summary for publication.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stoddard. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, the voting is open at this time. All votes are cast, the voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously as well. So that moves us into our third action item listed under new business, which is to consider Bill 57, Ordinance 3618, regarding amendments to the Caldwell City Code pertaining to access management standards. Mr. Mills, the time is yours. But not too much time. Remember the great prayer that we had at the beginning of the meeting.
That's right. That's right. We prayed for a short meeting.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. This proposed ordinance before you tonight would repeal and replace our access management standards that are found in Chapter 13, Article 5 of our city code. The copies, I believe, you got of the ordinance today are the same content that was in your council packet. It's just that the city attorney assisted and corrected the formatting on this so that now all the sections have numbers and letters as opposed to my bullets, which don't work too well with city code, I have found out. So anyway, so it's the same information though that you had in your packets. So what is access management and why do we need it? So, well, without it, we would have chaos with traffic. If you can imagine like a Costco and they said, hey, we want to put a driveway here 100 feet from this major intersection, it just wouldn't work. So access management is really about the safe placement of access points or driveways along a city street. And it really just is to do two things, to maximize safety and to minimize traffic congestion. We're bringing this policy forward because the standards we have in place right now are very outdated. Actually, they were based on an expired policy by the Ada County Highway District in 1999, and also from Idaho Transportation Department standards of 2001, excuse me. So these new standards that we have proposed here are based on the current Ada County Highway District policy, and they are applied to all 6 cities in Ada County and the rural county in Ada County as well. What this policy does is it lays out the purpose, really the benefits, and the goals and principles of access management. It includes some tools. It also lists allowed spacing for driveways and separation from other driveways. And it has a summary table that really goes through what's allowed for each of the different classifications of roads, because you certainly don't want to have the same requirements for a local residential street as you would for a major arterial road. So as a result, the numbers vary based on the type of road that we have. And as with any good policy, it has to have flexibility. So in this policy, we have, I counted, there's at least 10 areas in here where we allow for exceptions under different circumstances that different developments will bring forward. And it gives the city engineer the flexibility to grant exceptions whenever they're warranted. And if just in case, you know, Haley just goes rogue and bulldog and will not listen to any development, which is not the case, there's also an appeal procedure in place that a person, if they feel they aren't getting anywhere with staff, they can bring it back to the council for an appeal. So with that, it's pretty quick, but I want to keep, you know, with the short meeting thing. I'm happy to answer questions
Excellent,
at this
thank you so
point.
much. Questions, Councilor Stoddard? Oh, Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you again. I went through it twice. It was Greek to me completely.
It is.
In your 5-minute presentation, I've learned a little more.
Okay.
I have 2 questions, but then I'm going to ask that this be delayed till the next council meeting to vote on, and I'll tell you why. But first, my 2 questions. Why now? And who brought this forward at this time to be rewritten? It's a complete rewrite, as you stated.
Correct.
But
I think why now is that our policy has been outdated. It really, what we're asking for is no longer even valid because it's 25 years old. Traffic data policies have changed nationwide, statewide. So it's being brought forward because we really need this policy to be updated to the current standards. I was asked to do it when I came on as a new employee to rewrite the access management policy. And I looked at all the different policies around. Ada County has a very good one. It's been established quite a while. So that's why I used them as my basis. Didn't change very much, really condensed their policy. Their policy takes up this many pages, mine's down to 10. So I don't know if does that answer your question?
I think that helps. That does give me some direction there. And the only reason I'm going to ask to delay it, and I would say if we do vote on it tonight, I'd be a no vote simply for this reason. Because there's so much information in here, because it's so new to me, because I feel like I don't understand it, I've just made up my mind this year, anything that I feel like I need more information on, more time, I almost wish we could have workshopped this to take a 30-minute flyby, but the prayer trumps everything. I want to do more homework and I want to understand this before I vote on it, so that a year from now, I'm not saying I didn't know that, I didn't understand it, I should have asked more questions. I don't even know what questions to ask right now, Bruce. I'm sorry. You did help me a lot, but I want to do a little more research and homework, and I would just ask that we delay it. I think August 5th is our next council meeting, and we could even attempt to put it on the consent calendar, and then if there's any question beyond that, we could remove it. But I just need more time. There's 5 other people up here that might make a different motion, but I would just ask that we postpone it so I could get a little more research done on it. And I might even call you and say, help me understand this more.
Okay.
Councilor Allgood?
Yeah, just a quick question, Bruce. When we're talking driveway spacing and things like that, does, and I'm in the same boat as Councilor Williams, but does controlled access driveways have a different regulation, or are they all the same? If it's a gated driveway that people can't enter at speed, is that the same distance, or do we regulate that?
A gated driveway?
Yeah, controlled access private property?
I assume if it's gated, it's private, and these are really, I don't really, Haley, maybe you can help me out with that one.
Yeah, so if it was a gated driveway, we would look at that as a private road, not as a public local road, since it's, as Bruce said, it's gated, so we wouldn't be able to publicly enter it. So we would evaluate it differently, and that's why there are some, there's some verbiage in, within this ordinance that would allow some discrepancy of the city engineer, that we can look at those locations where they are odd a little bit differently than standard.
the reason I'm asking this is I see on local roads that it has to be 75 feet from the intersection, and then there's not a designated feet in between driveways. But when you say 75 feet for a driveway from the intersection, I'm thinking that driveway is a private drive, am I right?
Yeah,
Yes.
so like a driveway to a home isn't classified the same as a driveway is in this access management. We're talking about driveways where it's just access like into a parking lot or into a development, where it's not access into a single home. So a driveway into a single home isn't evaluated the same way that a driveway into a commercial development would be, and they're defined differently. And it is a bit confusing because I think that word is used often. And so I think that would definitely, I can see where that could cause confusion. So it wouldn't be like a home residence driveway, it would be for like commercial access. Think about Cleveland Boulevard, where there's however many access points to all those different commercial lots. It's working towards restricting all those driveway access into commercial lots on heavily used public roadways.
So we're kind of thinking along the same lines, and what I was thinking is a commercial driveway.
Okay.
But a lot of commercial properties gate their driveway at night at the end of business. And if that changes the rules of access, if that is gated off and people can't enter the driveway after hours, does it change anything that we're doing?
Not to my
lots,
knowledge,
some
because if it's
businesses.
closed off at night, it really isn't an access at that point.
Okay,
So
so
it's
it
really
does not
during
change.
the business hours when the gate's open and it is an access.
Okay.
Councilor Williams, did you have another?
Thank you. So, does that suggest we should clarify this policy then, so that there is no ambiguity that driveway might mean residential? It doesn't exclude it. Is that something that should be considered?
Well, Mr. Mayor and Councilman Williams, I don't really think so. This policy has been well established in Ada County and used by the development community for many years, and I don't think there's really ambiguity there. But again, it allows the flexibility that if there's ambiguity, that Haley, as the city engineer, still has that opportunity to allow for exceptions as needed.
Okay, any other discussion or any motions? Councilor Williams?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just move that we postpone this to the August 5th council meeting and see if I get a second.
Okay, I guess we have a motion to continue this item to the next city council meeting, which would be Monday. Note that, Monday, August 5th, here in this chambers. Do we have a second to that motion?
Sure.
Okay, so we have a sure, so we have a motion and a sure to go along with it. So a motion from Councilor Williams with a second from Councilor Doty to continue this item to August 5th on that. And I appreciate your proposal to put that on the consent, and if questions are answered, great. If not, then they can be pulled at that time for additional. Oh, we can't, that's right, because it is, yep, so it'll go to old business. That is right. Thank you, Debbie, for that. So any discussion on that motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Stoddard.
You know, sometimes I think we can get into the weeds of this thing, and that's why we hired Bruce, because he comes from ITD, and he's got these expertise, and I trust that he's done this kind of homework, and, if we did this with every ordinance that came through to get in that type of weeds, I think we're just wasting time, but that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Any other discussion? Okay, so we'll just do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, so that motion does pass, 5 in favor with 1 in opposition. So August 5th, we'll have that under old business and try to get through it quickly. So yeah, I encourage you to go ahead and to please reach out if you do have questions to Mr. Mills between now and then. You're free to do so in that regards and to try to get those questions answered so we can move through it as quick as possible on the 5th. Okay, that moves us, let me get back to action item number 4, which is finance report.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Register.
I move that accounts payable in the amount of $2,800,206 represented by check numbers 179133 through 179460 and a payroll for the amount of $787,066.43 represented by check numbers 39495 through 39518 and direct deposits be accepted, payments approved, and vouchers filed in the office of the city clerk.
Very good. Thank you so much. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Counselor Register and a second from Counselor Allgood for acceptance of the finance report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. And that moves us into the next discussion item. So this is discussion regarding the appointment of appointed officials. So I will kick this off, and then we can get into discussion with council. Again, this is just discussion, so this is not any motions or approvals tonight, but just to get council feedback in regards to the appointed officials, directions you'd like to go. So it had been, question had been asked about which members of the department heads are appointed officials, which are not. So those that, it's probably easier to say which are not than those that are. As you're aware, like our public works director, our city attorney, our city clerk, police and fire chief, all of those are appointed positions. The ones that are not, that are part of that, the department heads would be the Parks and Rec director. So that position was approved a couple years ago. When that came on, that was not installed as an appointed position. The IT director, that was also created not too long ago. And then the library director. Library director is a bit unique. The library director, I believe, is appointed by the library board. So she does report to them. So she almost has two hats that she has to wear in that regards, but she's not an appointed position here at the city. I think the focus was mostly on the Parks and Rec director in that regard. So just for councils, and this information, and would be a recommendation for me, but it is ultimately up to the council in regards to our appointed officials. It is at your purview if you wish to make the Parks and Rec director an appointed position. They are over, quite a few of the facilities and things of that nature. City Meridian, it is an appointed position over there in that regards, but I also think it's important to note that I believe all cities, there may be a few smaller ones that don't, but the majority of the cities in the Treasure Valley do not put their appointed positions on terms. So they appoint them. I talked to Nampa today, Meridian, other cities. So once you are appointed, you are similar to other employees at the city. So you're not appointed to a 1-year term or a 3-year term. You're simply appointed. And then if you're not doing your job, then you can be removed by the vote of the mayor and 4 council members, or by all 6 council members can remove an appointed official. So that would be, if you do want to add more appointed officials, I think it's a good idea at least to discuss that, to go that direction. It does make it more difficult in recruiting appointed officials. If they know that they may be out of a job, even if they're doing a great job, if they get the wrong people upset, they may be out of a job within a couple of years. It can be difficult to recruit, especially where all the other cities are not having that requirement. So that would be something that I would at least ask for discussion. And again, it is your decision, but that is something that cities used to have that. I know ICRIMP recommends strongly against it. They have concerns of having it for a certain time period. I believe that's why most of the cities in the Treasure Valley, if not all, have gone away from that. And then, so basically, as you know, we have appointments coming up this year, next year, the year after, for those officials. And so that was something at least I would recommend some discussion to get feedback on that. But that is kind of the way that most of all cities have been going in the Treasure Valley, to just appoint them without a certain term. So I'll throw that out there, and then the council register, we'll start with you. I know that you'd kind of brought this up, so.
Well, I do think that that position should probably be an appointed one, but I still would like an organizational chart that makes sense to me. I know you gave me one, but.
And I am working on one, I promise.
Okay.
Yep.
I think it would be great if we could see kind of top down who supervises who and who's doing what and all that kind of stuff, just so we can see what that looks like. But I do think that's kind of one of those weird positions sort of off on the side that probably should have been appointed, but it wasn't for whatever reason. And it's just kind of the lone wolf, I think. So I do.
Yeah. Counselor Doty?
I agree. I think the Parks and Rec, because of its responsibility, so I agree with Councilor Register. I'm not so against making it just appointed. However, I think that there needs, because we are in charge of appointing them or confirming the appointment, that we don't really know how anyone's doing or if they have a deficiency, right? I mean, this is what we get to see, and hopefully they don't. But if they do, if it's just an open-ended appointment, we certainly need like an update of, at least from the mayor, how they're doing, right? Whether that's an executive session or however that works, so that we know what we don't know.
Yeah, and that's a great, I hadn't thought about that. That's a great, I just wrote down an annual report on that could be something. And as you mentioned, in an executive session to bring in, you could do a couple different ones and bring in half and half, because that could be a long executive session, but that would be a great idea on that, to have that, and whether it's an annual report or whatever that was determined, to just, like I said, make sure you're informed of where they're at and what they're doing. Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to concur that I think the Parks and Rec position does have a substantial amount of responsibility. I'd love to see it become an appointed position, but this is new to me, that it would be an appointment indefinite, and I'd like to look at the rationale behind that, especially since they're appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the council. I think there ought to be some end in it, even if it's a change in the position of the mayor. That those appointments shouldn't just carry over. The next mayor might have something different. I don't know. This is all new to me, so I'm kind of talking out loud right now, but I certainly think that if we're going to reconsider the appointment periods, we should go into more detail and do more research on that.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. That's good feedback. Any other feedback or from the council? Councilor Allgood?
Just a quick question. I remember we had a little bit of an issue when you took office and reappointed everybody immediately, and then we had employee changes. And there was discussion at that time that maybe we shouldn't appoint till the mayor's been in the seat for a little while. Did we ever change anything to that, or is it still the same? Because the mayor has to reappoint, a new mayor has to reappoint all the people. They can't be appointed by the old mayor, if I remember right.
Yeah, correct, because usually it was that first meeting in January, where if you do have a new mayor coming in literally that night that they're getting sworn in, they're reappointing. So that, there was that change. It was moved to coincide with the fiscal year instead of the annual year. So that gave at least that time.
So if we had a change in mayor, all appointed officials would have to be reappointed, but it wouldn't be immediately. It would be at the end of the fiscal year.
Correct. Any other feedback or? Okay, well, that is good feedback, so we do appreciate that. So we will kind of put our heads together, probably reach out to ICRIM to get more info as far as why do they make those recommendations, and some other information, and bring that to council in the very near future for your decision on that. But and especially since, as you are aware, we are advertising, looking for a new Parks and Rec director, and obviously if that position is changing to an appointed position, we want to make sure that they're not hired and then a month later the council disagrees with it and they're not here anymore in that regard. So we'd want to make sure to get that taken care of and moving that forward as quick as possible. Yeah, Councilor Doty.
I was going to bring this up in council comments, but since we're talking about appointed officials, just changing gears a little bit, with Adam Garcia on urban renewal. Do you have plans? Is this the appropriate time to discuss that, or you want me to wait for my comments, which is right after this? And do you plan on bringing someone forward to replace Adam, or I guess I'm just looking, what is your direction and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, we can definitely touch on that now. So yes, we are actively looking into that, obviously in communication with the chair of the urban renewal, who's here this evening, Mr. Porter, on that. So the goal is to have somebody before council in August, most likely the second meeting in August, for your consideration in that regard. So we are, actively looking to see who would be a good fit, good replacement to come in on that. And then again, it is the council's decisions on that. So there have been some questions in regards to, because I know somebody saw Adam at the last one, even though his term had expired. So state code is clear on that, that once with urban renewal, once your term expires, you continue until you are replaced. So we do plan on moving forward. We are not going to stall that out to the end of the year, just so he can keep serving in that capacity. So we are actively working on that, and do hope to have somebody, which would be, is it the 19th? Is that right, Debbie? August 19th, the second one. So that would be our goal, to have a name before council for your consideration at the August 19th meeting. Okay. Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate that question. Okay, very good. And again, that was just a discussion item, so no decisions at this time, but we'll be bringing that forward with some more information as an action item in the near future. And now that does move us into council comments, so might as well just keep going. Councilor Doty?
So I just have one now, I think, but I just want to make a comment. Mr. Ginke couldn't be here, Lee, I think a few of us know him here, but he says, and it looks like a few players are in the room still, but he is expressing to donate, I guess it would be a park, a 3.5 acre park with pickleball, basketball, and soccer facilities. What he's running into, and this is the part I don't understand and maybe need some education on, is it seems like it still is required that he puts in a bathroom and parking. So his question is, if I'm donating $700,000 worth of property and equipment, can that be waived, or can the city meet him halfway? I mean, we certainly, it's quite, when you talk about return on investment, for us to build a parking lot and a bathroom would certainly be cheaper than putting in and acquiring the land he's willing to donate. So maybe you have more information on that, or maybe even I'll throw you under the bus a little bit. Maybe, I think he's talked to you as well, hasn't he, about this? Or someone from your office maybe. But I just think as a return on investment, even if that's what our codes or that's what our policies say, it certainly is a nice gesture. And then we say, but not if you don't put in a bathroom. So I'm just trying to understand that a little bit.
Yeah, we may throw Rob under the bus on this one so he can come forward. So, yeah, and that would be, because obviously it's not budgeted to do that, but if it is a public park, it must have ADA access, must have parking, must have a bathroom. So those are requirements. The city could do that, but it's not in the budget, current budget, and not planned in the next year's budget. So that's probably where that issue comes in. Mr. McDonald, do you want to add to that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Doty. Just to speak to that a little bit, any city park has to have the full amenities, and that would include a parking lot and all that. So someone that doesn't live in the subdivision is able to come visit. I think it would be totally acceptable for the city to offer to participate in some of that. And there may even be impact fees that could go towards some of that construction. And so I think the concept was misconstrued a little bit. And maybe that was my fault for not explaining clearly. We do have to have all those amenities. It doesn't necessarily have to be him that builds it all, but to be a public park that is fully functional, they all have to be there.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, and thank you for that explanation. I'd really like to see the mayor's office work on that, right? It seems like quite a gesture. Again, I think the amount to pay for a bathroom, we're working on however it works out, but I think we're putting in very little money compared to what maybe he wants to donate to the city. So I'd like to see us work on that with him. And maybe there was some miscommunication, but sit down and try and iron that out. I'm certainly willing to pay for a bathroom and a parking lot if we get these type of amenities donated to the city, so.
Very good. I'm going to throw a plug in too for Parks and Rec real quick. So as we take on these new facilities, which is fantastic, it is additional work for our Parks and Rec department to make sure they're adequately staffed as they request those. Especially, I know the boots on the ground has come up. I think Councilor Rooms has talked about that, rather looking at the top level, we need more boots on the ground, and that's specific for that. So we need to continue to make sure we do add those positions specifically for Parks and Recreation to maintain those facilities. Councilor Stanek.
Yes, I have two items. First of all, relative to code enforcement, that property that's south of Ustick and west of Indiana, the kochia weeds on the west of Indiana is as high as my pickup. I can't even see over them, so I think we need to do something about that, because the land hasn't been developed yet, but I'm sure it will be in the future. And secondly, we all know how successful the 4th of July parade was, and I publicly want to thank Terry Harold, who's chairman of the board of our Veterans Hall, who put that thing together mostly, and he did a great job, and nobody had any heat-related problems, I don't think, because it was a little bit shorter than than previous years, but again, I just want to thank Terry for all the work he put into the parade. That's all.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, he does an amazing job on that. And yeah, we had a lot of great feedback on the new route on that. So we kind of I met with Travis Palmer recently, and he was commenting on it. I said, well, we stole it from you, because they actually kind of came up with it for the Winter Wonderland, for the Nightlight Parade. We just shortened it a little bit more, and he liked that even better. So I think we stole it from him, now he's going to steal it from us, how we changed it on his. So it should continue going forward for both of those parades.
Mr. Mayor, just one
Yes.
comment on that. You got my message, though,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, I did.
Just someplace that we can identify better for folks to
Yeah, definitely.
get a break.
Councilor Register.
Yes. So I was also going to touch on the Adam Garcia position. Are you looking for somebody, or are you opening it up for the public to send in their interest?
So the public can obviously definitely submit if they're interested in that. We are, like I said, talking with, Mr. Porter, with Mr. Jenkins, who's not here anymore, our Economic Development Director, in those regards. But yeah, if there are people that are interested in it, they are more than welcome to submit, basically kind of like a resume, a letter of information of their desire to do so, kind of their background, their qualifications, kind of to serve on that. So it'd be great to, if there are interested people, to let them know they can definitely reach out to the city clerk and provide her with that information.
And then will we be able to see the letters, or are we only going to get the name that you decide on?
Yeah, no, we can definitely provide you with any and all information that's submitted from people that are interested in the position.
Great. And then so I was actually going to bring up parking meters before it came up earlier. Do we have a date yet where we're going to have a workshop or a meeting on that?
So, and I'll mention Steve again, even though he's not here. I know there was an email from Councilor Dittenber and with Councilor Doty on that, and appreciate that information. So I tasked that to Mr. Jenkins in regards to moving that forward, working to creating some groups to get together and kind of some focus groups to kind of get the people involved. The Roberts would be a great people to have involved in that, where they live in the downtown business owners, building owners, and to kind of get that going. So it sounds like, Debbie, you have some more information?
Well, Mr. Jenkins just contacted me late this afternoon, and we put 2 dates on the calendar for this room. So the 28th, which is Monday, and Wednesday, the 30th, are the 2 focus group dates that have been set aside. Now, he's still getting everything together to get that out to the public, so the times and all are still being detailed. But right now, I've reserved the room from 3 o'clock on both of those dates, so that we're open to whatever the final decision is making that available. But there is 2 that he's targeting as far as the community for one of those and business owners for another one. And he'll give me more details so we can get that out on social media, website. And I understand they're going door to door to businesses to let them know about that as well.
Well, I appreciate that. I was going to say that I think part of the problem before was the lack of communication with businesses, and then also making sure that they could be here. So depending on times and when they have businesses, so we're only 12 days away or whatever it is from the 28th. So we just need to make sure that if they can't come, then we reschedule that. So I guess in light of that, then probably at the next meeting, I'll be bringing forth some proposals, I suppose, for some changes until those groups come together and come up with something else, I guess. So I'm sort of waiting, but I don't want to wait too long. And then I was just going to give sort of a shout out to planning and zoning. I had an incident that we had to call on for a neighborhood, and they took care of it right away. And I think the building owner had not been very cooperative, and then planning and zoning, I don't know what they did, but suddenly they're cooperative. So that was really great. So thank you.
Good. Well done, Robin. Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 or 3 things here. First, a quick question. There seems to be a lot of confusion about the fireworks on the 4th of July. Was there a snafu, or did they go off as planned?
So I was going to touch that in my comments. I can do it now if you want, or just wait till I get to my. So there was snafu. I don't know if any of you were there. The nice thing is that the fireworks are so great, even with the snafu, people still loved them and enjoyed them, and didn't really even. The only complaint we actually got was the delay in it. So there was approximately 5 to 10 minute delay in the middle of the fireworks. Well, towards the beginning, started great, everything was going fantastic, and then it just stopped. And it was about 5 to 10 minutes, they're trying to figure it out and get it going again. They were able to start it again, and then to what everybody thought was the finish. And still a lot of great feedback for what people like, but the show would have been incredible if it had all gone off in that regard. So I met with Homeland Fireworks, who's the company that was chosen to do that. So I met with him this last week and asked him to put a proposal together, kind of identifying what the issues were, and we talked about them, what the problem were, how do you correct that, and his proposal is how to compensate the city back for not having a complete show. So I wanted to put that on him and his company to see what they're going to propose to the city. I also spoke with the fire marshal to get his feedback on it, and he was kind of the same thing, to see what, if they own up to it, the mistake, and what they are going to do to remedy it for the city, whether that is, additional fireworks next year, a monetary return of money this year. We actually have not paid the second half, so we're holding that check until we see what kind of restitution we can come to in that regards. But there's kind of two portions of the show. There's the ground show, which is kind of up front, and then in the back is where the main fireworks shoot off. And we did do a separate or a different location of shooting off this year. Usually they're in the center of the park, which requires the entire park more or less to kind of be shut off except for the outer edges. The fire marshal had asked about moving that to behind the baseball stadium, the football stadium. His main concern is security. When it's out in the open like that, it's tough to keep people out coming in overnight. So you put it back there, it's behind a fence, you can lock it, it's much more secure on that. So it worked really great for that, and it was nice to see the park all open. People were out there playing volleyball, doing different things. It was more of that community event that we're going for. So what the issue turned out to be, and it was unfortunate, so Mike, who owns the company, was on site the day before, getting everything ready, even the day of, but then they had an issue at another site, so he left to go to that site to try to take care of us, who is not there. And it turns out, and I don't have diagram to show, but there's kind of a central point between where the fireworks were shot and where the stage is, and they need to be able to connect to each other. And there's a battery along with that connector, and the battery was far enough away from where the fireworks were shooting that for the test run, it worked great because it wasn't pulling as much energy. But with that length of cord, as you know, the further away you get from a battery, the less juice you get from it. With the distance that was there, the battery did not have the juice to shoot off the majority of the fireworks from behind. All the ones up front pretty much went off. It was the ones back behind, the larger ones. If they had separated the battery, which was his plan, was the battery did not need to be at the Bluetooth signal location. If it had been back with the fireworks, it all would have gone off no problem. But how it was, only there's about, so like I said, 97% of the fireworks up front shot off, which is you have to be within a 3 to 5% ratio to meet the standard. In the back, only about 10% shot off. So there was more than half, well, nearly all of the large ones did not go off in that regard. So we are definitely working with him. Like I said, I expect that proposal from him this week and kind of seeing where that's at and then move forward in that direction. But yeah, it was unfortunate. A lot of, like I said, those that have been knew that there was something different and not as great as it usually is. A lot of people still liked it. We just shows you how amazing of a show it is. If only 10% of the big ones went off, and people still, for the most part, enjoyed the show. But we are definitely working through it.
I appreciate that, and I think for the amount that the city spends on this, to know that we are going to be made whole one way or another is what's important to me. And it doesn't matter how good it wasn't what we paid for.
Yep.
So thank you for following up. Maybe you'll fill us in on that later on then. Let us know how that's resolved. The second thing I'd like to do is give a shout out to our police chief and our police department. Lieutenant Wright is here again tonight. I'm sure all of you got an email and are aware of the significant drop in crime, the dramatic drop in arrests, the fact that we are being acclaimed and being lauded, not just locally, but in the entire state, being recognized even nationally. This city has a lot to be appreciative of with regard to our police chief, the heavy lifting that he and his command staff have done over the last 2 years. It has just been 2 years that he's been here. I would credit him with keeping us out of a consent decree. I would credit him with our new Professional Standards Bureau and the training and a lot of other things. But, after that article was published and the news continues to go out, we probably ought to have a parade or a ticker tape or a recognition for our chief of police, for him not to be appreciated for that. And he's not here tonight, but I know he's at the Stampede because our Officer Rapatoni is being recognized as a hometown hero, is it? And that's a big deal. This is a police department that came through some difficult days and has responded and has grown and has excelled. And I think we need to publicly be recognizing that it's leadership that gets this done. And I know the gentleman to my left would agree with me because he sat in that chair. And while the chief would deflect if he were here and say it's team, and I would agree with him, but team can't do anything without leaders that are directing and leading them. And so I, as a council member, and would recommend that we as a council recognize our chief of police publicly for this and give him the accolade that the public is giving him and even the nation is giving him. I just think it'd be nice if we did it on the record as a city as well. And so that, and of course a shout out to Detective Rapatoni, which I just did, but a stellar officer. He has been a training officer, one of our better training officers, has done a lot to put a lot of our new officers on the roads. He's tough. If you ask anybody that had Rapatoni as an FTO, he's tough. But you can see why. He's had some experiences that make him want to be sure that the new officers are well prepared. So that was my second item, Mr. Mayor. The third is just a question and maybe clarity. This week, again, it was a complicated week for me, a short packet for which there's good and bad to that. Only 310 pages, I think it was, this time. I was struggling at home again. I would have loved to have come down here on a Sunday to get in our office that we've been afforded. It's great that there's an office space and a computer that's designated and printer back there. Do we have access to this building on Sundays?
You should. I know we've had some issues with Councilor Doty's and I think Councilor Allgood as well. Were they able to get yours? I was going to reach out, apologize on that. So yes, so you should have access Monday through Sunday.
So there's no alarms on the building that we need to be worried about and we can get in and out with our access and...
Yep, no, so you should not have to worry about
Okay.
that at all. But
Perfect. Thank
so
you
if
for
you
the
do have that, feel free, you can reach out to myself or to IT as well on that. I know that I was able to get Councilor Allgood hooked up with Noah in our IT department to get him all taken care of. So yes, we do apologize. I know that Doty's had several issues on that. Hopefully we have, and I know kind of looking, I didn't realize how intense it was because I was in there with him when we were going through yours and then with Councilor Allgood. So it lists like so many different like badges and access cards and things of that nature that and each of them have their own code and it is such a complicated process and things of that. So you make one change here, then it can have a domino effect down the line for things you don't really realize. So if you do have those issues, yeah, feel free, please reach out to myself. You can reach out to Jose Menchaca, the IT director, and they can get that taken care of for you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Councilor Allgood.
Yeah, just a couple of things real quick. I'm appreciating our budget process. I mean, it's intense, but it's good. But I just want to, and this is just my own feeling, but I want to emphasize with our department heads that, Ray Lynn said we were $600,000 over budget still. And it would be, if we need to trim that $600,000 from our budget, it is so much preferred that the department heads do that rather than have us be whacking stuff out of budgets. Again, having been in that place, our department heads have a much better idea of what they can live without or what they can change versus council members voting up or down on particular items. And so I would just encourage you to relay to them that they all understand that we have to have a balanced budget. We can't be like the federal
Yes,
government.
yes,
and
you
just
can
add
say
money.
that exact same thing.
And so, rather than have us up here nickeling and diming what our departments need, it is so much preferred that they make those changes and meet that balanced budget so that we don't do that. And then the second thing was, there was some discussion on some parking meetings in this room. If we attend those meetings, does this have to be noticed as a council workshop or meeting, or should we not attend those meetings to avoid a meeting conflict, or how should we do that?
I think you're fine to do it. I mean, if you were sitting up here taking that testimony thing, then that's a different story. But if you're simply attending, a workshop, you want to be careful not to, congregate in a group of three over here discussing something which appears to be a private meeting. But no, I think that you would be more than welcome to attend that and just be aware of,
We can all be-
congregating
We can
together.
all be in the same room, we just
Yep.
can't be discussing.
Yeah, so I think just being aware, because sometimes you congregate with people you're familiar with, so just being aware that, the public is watching, if they see, even if to be honest, even if it's just two of you over in a corner talking, again, that's not illegal, but people may think, well, what are they discussing over there? So just be aware, I think, of the surroundings, but you'd be more than welcome to come and attend that.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Dittenberg.
So, thank you. I guess I get to be the cleanup hitter tonight. I appreciate the way the council works. I appreciate the way the majority rules, and I appreciate the way, this form of representative government works. But I would be remiss in my responsibility as a council member and as a citizen of this great community to recognize Adam Garcia and his commitment to this community. He did a remarkable job for this community. He's designed many facilities, even the facility we sit in here today, and just did a great job. His legacy in this city goes back all the way to the PAL program and to the boxing program. And the fact that the council has chosen not to move forward with reappointing him is a big loss to our city. And I agree with the council, because I have to, because that's the way they decided to go. But we owe a lot of thanks to Mr. Garcia and what he's committed to this city. We'll be hard pressed to find somebody who meets his qualifications.
Very good, thank you so much. Yeah, Adam was a great asset, and we will miss him, and he was a rock in this community, still is. Grew up here, and we used to give each other, when I was the planner, give each other a hard time, and I loved he'd come in and he'd make fun of me, and I'd make a little fun of him, and had a great relationship on that.
Can I
Appreciate all that he did on that.
Ask a
So-
question about that then. When he moved, why wasn't anybody notified?
So when he moved, it wasn't still in accordance with state law, codes, and, it
Like-
was,
I understand that. I understand what the code says, and I think the reason it came up was because there is a need for Caldwell citizens to be involved in making decisions for taxpayers. I'm sure he did a wonderful job. It's not about him. It's about the million-dollar decisions that are being made that need to be made by citizens. And I feel like when he moved, had that been disclosed to council and that communication been there, then maybe it would have been different. It seemed, we had to just sort of find out by a random comment. So I feel like when we're talking about this, like, it's important to be accurate with exactly what happened, that I'm sure he's done amazing, great things. There are lots and lots of amazing people in the community who can also do that, who live here or have businesses here. And when he moved, had the council been informed, I think it would have who knows if it would have had a different outcome or not. But at this point, I think it's important to make sure that when we're making these kinds of huge monetary decisions with taxpayer money, that it's done by people that live here.
yeah. And, it was discussed when he did move, and we, met with I believe we had met, and I know I talked with Steve, and I can't remember, Jim, if we talked or not, and kind of going off of what Councilor Dittenberg's comments were there, just the incredible asset that he was as a member of Urban Renewal. We confirmed that it was still within the proper ordinance. And obviously, can be disagreement about, the law is what it is, but you could still go into, well, is it appropriate or not? And that's where you get into personal opinions and thoughts on that regard. But the positives far outweighed the negatives in what Adam brought to the table. And even though he did not live in the city limits, like I said, just his knowledge, understanding of Caldwell, his heart. I know that he actually was losing significant amount of money by being on urban renewal, because there was numerous jobs he turned down because of the conflict that he had with that. So he was actually losing money. So monetarily, he'll benefit from not being on there, but he was willing to do that just because of his heart and soul in here, and his dedication and knowing, and his background and understanding of it. So that's the reason why we did continue with him in that position. So
Well, I want to encourage you to communicate with your council if something like that happens again, so that everybody's on the same page and maybe the outcome could be different.
okay, thank you, appreciate that. And I was just going to talk about the fireworks, which we already did. And so with that, I do not have any other remarks, and we stand adjourned.